Hi, my name is Emily Briner, and this is my presentation on the Clean Air Act. So some history behind the Clean Air Act. The Clean Air Act was established by Congress in 1963. It was majorly amended 3 times. The first time was in 1970, the second time was in 1973, and the last time it was amended was in 1990. It was amended a few more times other than that, but those were when the major amendments were put in. Dense smog in cities and industrial centers helped push the act. So when there's dense smog, it makes it harder for people to see. It makes the air quality a lot worse. So this is what pushed legislation and through Congress to get the act passed. The act was designed to help protect public health and welfare from different pollutions and pollutants. So it's designed to help keep people in the environment in a good state so that everybody and everything stayed healthy and good for people to eat and breathe and all the good stuff. It set air quality standards for the 6 common pollutants: particle matter, ozone, sulfur dioxide, carbon monoxide, nitrogen dioxide, and lead. Some amendments. In 1963, legislation offered federal research aid and urged the development of state-controlled agencies and involved federal government in interstate pollution issues. In 1965, legislation required the U.S. Department of Health, Education, and Services to create and enforce auto emission standards. So it set laws into place on how long cars can run, like cars can be idle and running, and things like that. In 1970 was the first real time that power was given to the federal government. So they were enforcing more rather than just kind of watching over things. They had more of a power than the states did. Or not than the states did, but they got more power to help the states out. In 1970, it also formed the basis of the U.S. air pollution. In 1970, it formed the basis of the U.S. air pollution control policy. Again, in 1970, 4 major components were added. It put into place the National Ambient Air Quality Standards. The EPA established new source performance standards. This means that the EPA put in place a policy that kind of tells the states what places are allowed to have more pollution and what places aren't allowed to have as much. So big cities might be able to have a little bit more rather than small rural areas or suburbs. It specified standards for auto emissions, aiming at the reduction of various gases by almost 90%. It encouraged states to develop plans to achieve the set standards, so it kind of put more power into the hands of the states again. The federal government kind of told states, you guys can figure out how you're going to get the standards, we're just going to set them. Their only requirement was that these states get their plans approved by the EPA. Some more amendments. In 1977, amendments were concerned with states that were not achieving national objectives as to auto emissions and measures to prevent air quality deterioration in areas where the air had already been clean. So what this means is In 1977, they had a little bit more of a push to make sure that the places that needed better air quality were getting it, and that the states were following that, and that the places that already had good air quality, or that the air quality was getting better, they wanted to make sure it stayed that way. They didn't want things to be reversed or change. In 1990, the legislation addressed environmental issues such as acid rain, toxic pollutants, areas still not at regulation standards, and the ozone layer depletion. So they targeted big things that are important. They wanted to make sure that things like acid rain, which hurts our environment, hurts our plants and our food and the animals, stays away. And they want to make sure that it gets the pollutants that are causing it to stop. They want to make sure that it's not a big problem. With ozone depletion, they want to make sure that the ozone layer stays as it is, because it helps keep harmful rays from coming down to Earth, and it helps keep our atmosphere at a place where it can help us sustain human life. Massive decreases in certain gas emissions were mandated to control acid rain, increasing toxic pollutants. Deadlines for non-compliant areas and the 3 major chemical contributors to the ozone layer were phased out. Some benefits. From 1970 to 2017, national emissions of the 6 common pollutants dropped an average of 73%. This is really good because it shows that we were finding new and better ways to do things. We weren't using as many pollutants, and it was helping our way of life. Between 1990 and 2017, national concentrations of air pollutants improved 80% for lead, 77% for carbon monoxide, 88% for sulfur dioxide in an hour, 56% for nitrogen dioxide annually, and 22% for ozone. Another benefit is, according to a 2011 study, the central benefits estimate exceeds costs by a factor of 30 to 1. Some more benefits. There has been a reduction in premature mortality associated with the reduction in ambient particle matter, so less people are dying at an earlier age due to bad air quality, or things that are caused by having bad air quality and the pollutants in the air. There are less people dying from those things in an earlier age. Preventing premature mortality due to ozone exposure, preventing morbidity, including acute myocardial infractions and chronic bronchitis, and improving the quality of ecological resources and other aspects of the environment. So this shows that there's less harmful things going into our air and into our environment that is helping us in our way of life. People are getting sick less. Plants and animals are staying safe from things like acid rain. And it's just helping everybody and everything all around. There's also been improved visibility, which is a big thing in major cities, especially because if there's dense smog in major cities, it can, or really anywhere, it can hurt people in a way. Like, if you can't see while you're driving because of a dense smog, you might not be able to see somebody crossing the road. Or vice versa. If you're crossing the road, there's a dense smog, you might not be able to see a car coming at you. And it might just save, with better visibility, it saves lives. And these are my references. And thank you so much for